Well, with all the resistors and diodes mounted, I'm going to go ahead and tackle some of the other miscellaneous components. This will be capacitors, the MOSFET, potentiometers, those kinds of things. Get those installed next, and then I'll probably do the transistors after that, and kind of end with maybe the pin headers and LEDs. I'm not totally sure yet, so first thing here is I'm going to go ahead and get the MOV soldered up. I don't know that I'm going to be using USB power, but I am going to put a USB power jack on it, so I have that option. So the MOV goes right here. MOV is a metal oxide varistor, I believe is what it stands for. Basically, its resistance increases as it gets hot, which means you can use it essentially as kind of an inline fuse, in that if there's a short on the USB 5-volt power, it'll heat up very quickly and its resistance will increase and it'll limit the current. So, you know that works. I was able to get the, I believe that's the 1K there. Yeah, the 1K pot. I was able to get the 1K pot he called for on DigiKey. I didn't find it on Amazon. Actually, is that the right pot? That doesn't actually fit. That doesn't actually look like the right pot. This pot doesn't match the footprint in the PCB, which means I may have to dig for one that's a better fit. I'm having to really spread the legs out here to have any chance. So I'm not going to use that 1K pot. This is the pot that was called for in, I believe, the bomb. I could be wrong. I found a 10K in my stock here. It's got a top adjustment. It's got the right pin out here for this position, and will work there just fine. So I'll have to look to see if I have a 1K equivalent of that someplace. I probably do. Make sure it's flush. I don't have my soldering glasses on. I'll have to inspect that and trim the leads. But that is the intensity pot, not really the intensity, the contrast pot for the LCD. We've got 3.1 microfarad caps, disc caps. So I went ahead and pulled the diode out that was over here. This little section here is only if you're using the barrel jack for power. I don't intend to power it that way. So I'm not going to put the components in to do that. There is a 104 right here, a 104 right here, and a second 104 right below it. Right here. I'm just reaching underneath and hopefully bending out the legs a bit so it'll sit in place, but actually not having a whole lot of luck doing that. The two of you, I'd like you in kind of aligned together if I can make that happen. Well, wow, why is that so far off? That obviously wasn't what I meant to do. Oh, it's because it's caught. I'm looking at this. What has happened here? Why is that dropping the board? It's almost like there's some slack that shouldn't be here. Like maybe this is shifted a bit. The downside of this is how difficult it is to adjust. This PCB holder, that's a little bit tighter. I'll have to come back and trim. Oh, I didn't solder them all. I got 2 of them. Didn't get the third. These are just 0.1 microfarad ceramic despiking caps, part of the power distribution. There's a 10 microfarad electrolytic over here. I just kind of dug around in my stock and I happen to have one that fits the footprint. Looks like it's new old stock. Who knows how long I've had it or where I got it. There's one more we want to put in, and that's the 474 down here. And this is the packaging DigiKey did for the 474 film cap, because I wasn't sure I had one. So this is a little bit ridiculous in my opinion. I don't know, did they need bubble wrap? I went ahead and ordered 10 just so I've got extras. Occasionally I need a film cap. There's a .22 over here, a 224, that we don't need since we won't be doing the are using the 7805 power regulation. How straight does that seem to be? Well, the leads are poking through reasonably straight. That looks like it's better. And no, I haven't trimmed any of these leads yet. Taking care of those. I've got the buzzer out here. Again, insanely packaged. In this case, I only ordered one. My God, that's a lot of packaging for one buzzer. Now, these are polarized. In this case, the paper tab on top has got the positive. Looks like it is flush. It's just a little piezo buzzer. It does have a potentiometer there. We're going to have to find one. MOSFET. I have plenty. I don't know. It doesn't need a heat sink. So it looks like the leads get bent right where the shoulder neck's down. Like so. That screw holes line up really well the way I won't be using a screw. I'm going to solder one pin, and then we'll flip it over and check for alignment. There's a footprint here for like a little, maybe it's a SOT23, a little tiny MOSFET. So I think he went with this package just because the part was available when he designed this. It's not like it's going to be switching, 65 amps. It's not, obviously. So stayed straight. Let's get the center pin. So that is the MOSFET. I'm not going to use that potentiometer. What else have I got to mount here? I'm not going to mount that USB jack yet, even though I will mount one. There's a set of jumpers here you can use to enable the USB power and ground onto the board or not. And I will put pin headers in those, but I won't put the jumpers on. I don't want stuff that's too tall that'll get in the way of getting transistors in, because they're going to be interesting to get in. I think I'm going to stick with where I am now. I guess we can just kind of looking at free space on the board. It looks to me like we're okay. Mount the ZIF socket at this point. There's not really any transistors over here. Sounds like a lot of fireworks off in the distance. It is July 4th today. What the heck is going on here? Why? Has something come loose? Oh, it has. No? Guess that doesn't screw. Well, when I moved this, I moved it a little too far, apparently. I say the reviews I read said this is the downside of this. The locking pins there weren't fully engaging to keep it from rotating. You pull it out, but it's got those three little locking pins that engage to lock it into place. So let's get this swung back out of the way. Get that dropped back in. Get some pressure on it. I'm going to only solder the two corner pins. Then we'll make sure it's flush. And solder the rest. In this case, I'm going to pull it out so I can actually put pressure on it with my finger. Starting to actually look like something here. So the more I've used the little PC board handle or holder here, the more I kind of like it, in that as I was stuffing resistors, the leads just hung out the bottom. I wasn't laying the board down on the work surface and having the resistors pushed out. It was really kind of useful for that. And just kind of neat how it worked for that. So, you know, it's growing on me for certain operations here. Well, that puts the ZIF socket in. It still works. What else can we do here? I will dig for a 1K pot for over here off camera. It might take a while to dig through all my loose pots. Switches will wait. Might actually have a socket I can use right here. Nice machine pin. Just like that. Boom. That will work just fine. Again, I'll do two corners, make sure it's flush, and then finish soldering it and make sure I have the notch to the silkscreen notch. And I don't. After all that double checking, I actually have it backwards. Oh, crud. Okay, I'm going to fire up the desoldering tool. It was bound to happen, so sooner or later I'd get something wrong. I'm not going to solder these in yet because I may actually just hard solder resistors in. I've got a little box of cheap LEDs here. So I think I'll make the VCC one red. VCC red. There's actually power being applied. I'm trying to think here of the way I want to do this while that tool warms up. So VCC, that one will light when there's power being applied to the device under test. I hate using blue as a power on indication, but it probably is the best color for power on. Oh, I wish I could see. Like so. Those aren't mounted very well. I'll solder one side and then push them up flush with my fingertip and solder the other side. Wow. I didn't let the blue one, the solder hardened before I took my finger off and it dropped out of place. Okay, those look fine. Oh, come on, take solder. We'll add a bit of solder there. And so then we've got an LED over here that I assume means it's actively testing. I don't really want to use green or red over there because that would indicate to me pass or fail. This is why I'll put a yellow one in. It doesn't really, in my mind, indicate pass or fail. It just is an indication of something. Looks like it's flush, but I will push on it, make sure. It did move a teeny tiny bit. I should be able now to hopefully unsolder that socket. Luckily, I only soldered 2 pins. Yeah, the design of the socket made it look like I had the notch the right direction. Why are you still? You just needed a little bit of leverage. That's better. That does get notched and notched this way around. Okay, that's better. 2 corners again. Check it for flush and correct position. Again. I can see that it's not flush. Or maybe it is. It just didn't look that way. Getting too much loose stuff on the bench here. So I think that's as far as I'm going to go for miscellaneous components at this point. So I got to get the transistors in, and then I can mount the relays. You know, they're in the general area of the transistors. We will do that in a separate video, and of course I've got to get all the pin headers, male and female, in place. But I think this is enough for this video. We've got a lot of the miscellaneous stuff mounted up. And almost, and we'll go from there. So I'll see you in a future video.